Hi guys, welcome back to the next video. On this video we're going to continue to do the setup that we need in order to set up a split phase grid solution for AC charging. On the last video I showed you this Y adapter that I intend to use that has an L14 plug that goes into a 240 volt outlet, which has both of my hots on there, both sides of my phase power. And then on this Y adapter, it goes down and it splits it into two different 120 volt TT30 receptacles. So my plan is that one of these is going to be for my master, and then one of these is going to be for my slave. We already confirmed on the previous video that the two hots between these two are taking the two hots from this 240 volt plug here, and they are on opposite sides of my grid phase. So we're good for this cable, but now because this cable here, the output of it is TT30, it's not going to match or work with my generator cable that came from Bluetti. So we're going to change this plug today to a TT30 so that it works with this Y adapter. So let's get this Y adapter out of the way real quick. And then if you remember from my first video, and if you haven't seen this, you might want to take a quick peek at it. We toned this cable, so we actually wind up taking it apart because we wanted to confirm which of these prongs here go to which pins on this side here. And obviously we assumed, and we were correct, that one of the hots on this 240 volt, so you have your two hots, one of them is abandoned here and it's not being used. So we were surprised a little bit by the cabling that they had here. And I'll just briefly go over that again as a refresher. But this yellow cable here with the green stripe, it is going into the ground on this plug. However, your hot here, which is your black, is actually going into your W and your neutral on the plug. And then the white here is going into your X. Remember, your X or your Y, so your hot. We kind of are making an assumption that Bluetti is doing this because of the requirements for this type of plug. I'm assuming this plug, well, not assuming, this is a Weeaboo connector, and I'm assuming that this is wired this way to meet the requirements on this side. So when we change this plug to a TT30, we're going to have to follow that. It's going to be hot to W and white neutral to your hot. And I know it sounds confusing, but because I have two of these cables, one's going to be for my master, or sorry, one is for my master unit, and then this other one's for my slave AC300. We're only going to change one right now. And we're going to change it to that TT30, and then we're going to confirm that the hots, the neutrals, and the grounds all go to the correct pins on here, so we make sure that when we plug it into our AC300, we don't have any issues. So obviously we have this L14. Now I went and bought this plug from Lowe's. I actually have another one too, and I didn't actually fully set it up because it's going to be returned. Obviously it's missing the prongs right now. This one's from Home Depot. I decided to go with this guy. It's a lot smaller and just compact. This guy just seemed really clunky to me, so this one's going to go back. But we're going to change this plug right now. So let's go ahead and start this and take it apart and change it. Okay, so This plug is actually marked on the outside here. I hope you guys can see this, but this one here is your white, your neutral. It says W right there. This is your ground. Obviously, we know by the shape, but it does say G. And then obviously, this one's not marked, but we know it's either your X or Y. If it was a 240, we know this is a 120 volt style plug, so this would be your hot here. So, respectively, once again, because of the weird wiring that they have here, we're going to be doing a W is going to go your black wire, and your hot is going to be your white wire, and that yellow with the stripe is still going to be on here. So we're going to go finish that and put that on here. So here it looks like, obviously, because all three of these just had to go into the back of that, they didn't have to, cut back too much of the sheathing that's on here. So in order for us to do this without major problems, I think we're going to go cut some of this back here and make some adjustments. Obviously, make these wires a little bit longer too, so we can wrap them around the screws a little bit more properly. So Alright guys, so we're done putting this on here. Wasn't able to actually wrap, the cable around the terminals. I'll have to come back and do that later. Right now I'm just going to have them on here just so I can go ahead and test, make sure everything works, and then, I'll spend the effort on both of them to actually clean up the wiring a little bit. But in general, just to recap, we took this off of the generator cable, and we put on this TT30 now so that we can hook it up to our Y adapter. So what we're going to do now is take the two cables here. So this is the original untouched, and we're going to confirm the pins to what ports, and then do the same thing on here to make sure everything's coming up as we expect. So let's go ahead and get the voltmeter here. Let's go ahead and tone it. Okay, so if you remember correctly, what's going to happen here is if I touch the two leads, okay, we got tone, so we know signal's passing through. So we're going to do the same thing on these two cables here too. So let's get the TT31 out of the way, and let's bring this up. We'll scoot this over a little bit. So once again, we have the L bracket here. We expect that to be your ground. So we're going to go here. We expect it on this side here, the number 3 here. We expect that to be our ground. Okay, and it is. We know it directly across is our neutral, which is number 2 is what we expect. Okay, that's exactly what it is. Now let's figure out which hot goes to 1. Obviously that's the one that's not connected. So we're now going to the bottom one. Okay, and there we go. So we now know once again, hot is your pin number 1, neutral is your pin number 2, and number 3 is your ground. So now we expect the same thing to be on that side. So just real quick, just to show you, I'm going to take off this top cap. That's the only thing nice about this plug here too, is you can actually take this off without taking off this bottom support bracket. Okay. Okay, so once again, this is actually my hot, and this is my neutral according to the plug. So W's on this side, and let's just call it Y or X on this side. So Y or X on this side, if I flip it over, you'll see I have the white connected here. And the reason why is because remember, I'm following the pattern of the L14 connector that I took off. And I expect that to fall to the proper pin over here. And then for the W prong here, I have the black, okay? So those are unchanged. Let's go ahead and get this cap back on real quick. Okay, that's all there. Alright, let's go test this. So I'll flip this over. Actually, I apologize, this is going to be upside down here, but I'll read off the pin numbers in case you can't see it. Alright, so once again, checking for tone. Okay, got tone between these two. So once again, we expect this top one here to be our ground, and that should be pin 3, which is actually on the top right now. Okay, so that's fine. This is our W, our white, so we expect this to be the neutral here, and we expect it to be pin 2, which is down here. Now remember, this is the black cable going through the wire. That's the weird part. It's correct here to here. That's the most important piece here. So neutral white to pin 2. Okay, so we're good. This is our hot down here. This should be pin 1, which is right here. So technically we should be good right now. So next thing, honestly, what we just need to do is go outside, back to the garage, utilize our Y adapter here, plug this into our L14, and plug this cable into one of these, and also test electricity, make sure it's exactly as we expect. And if everything's good with that, we have 2 additional steps. 1, plug an AC300 into this, confirm it actually fires on with no issues, no problem, or it charges, let's say, off the grid or off this wire. And then we've got to change this one and get it to a TT30 as well, and then get the setup complete. So bear with me, let's go outside and let's go get this hooked up. Alright guys, so we're back out in the garage, and I brought the Y adapter, obviously L14 on this side and 2 TT30s on this side. So for my previous videos, you guys are aware that I have a temperature controlled receptacle above. That's an L14 240 volt outlet. We're going to utilize that to do our testing. So let's go ahead and plug this in real quick. Okay, and then we're going to turn on our power. Okay, you should see the meter come on in a second. Okay, so meter's on, so now these two receptacles are live. So let's quickly just double check them. Let's test them. Let's make sure we're getting the same thing that we got before. Obviously nothing should have changed. So we'll do our voltmeter. And we expect that this will, actually I'll just grab one of these. This should be our ground, this should be our hot, and this one should be our neutral. So what we're going to do real quick is just verify that we're getting 120 volts between the two of these, and then 240 volts between the two hots for the split phase, or basically the both sides of our phases. So we're going to go between a hot here and a neutral on this one. Okay, so we're getting 120 volts, so we're good there. Okay, just to confirm that that's the neutral, we're going to go to the ground, and we're getting no reading, so obviously that's the neutral that we're plugged in right now. We're going to go over to the other receptacle here. We're going to test this one too. So we're going to go, let's get our thing prong in there if it wants to go in today. All right, neutral and then to hot. Okay, so we've got 120 volts there. So once again, we're going to test the two hots to confirm that we're getting both sides of the phases. And we're 240 volts on the voltmeter. So that means that we're on separate phases there. So everything looks good with this Y adapter. So we're going to now take our, let me put these prongs up here so I don't drop them. So we're going to take our generator cable that this used to be an L14. We switched it to the TT30, and we're going to plug it into one of these receptacles here and make sure that on the back end here that we're getting the pin 1 as hot, pin 2 as neutral, and pin 3 as ground. Now, since this is brand new and that's brand new, they're kind of difficult to push in together, so I'm just going to turn off power real quick. I don't feel like slipping. So wait for me to go off. Okay, so that's done. So we're going to push these two together. I'm telling you, these are stiff. All right, so it's much harder getting it apart. All right, so that's all plugged in now. We're going to test these. These are going to become hot in here. Sorry, these are going to become hot in a second. So let's turn on the power. Meter should come on. Okay, we've got power to the outlet. Let's go test these pins and confirm that they are what we expect them to be. Okay, so once again, pin 1, we expect it to be our hot. Pin 3, we expect to be the neutral. So let's go into 3 and 2 real quick. I'm sorry, pin 3 should be our ground. Pin 2 should be our neutral. So we're gonna go between 3 and 2, and we should get minimum or no reading on those two. Then we're gonna go from, I set up the camera so I can actually use two hands, and now I somehow made it even more difficult. But we're gonna go from pin 3, ground, to pin, or not. Let's try this again. Oh, well, this thing does not want to stay in here, does it? All right, we're gonna go at an angle. I can't show you the pins anymore, and then pin 1. Okay, so from our voltmeter here, let me see if I can do this both here. You can kind of see that we're both in pin 1 and pin 3. We get 120 volts, just as we expect. So if I go between the pin 2, which is our neutral, and our pin 1, which is our hot, we should get 120 volts. And it's exactly what we're getting. So at this point, we know that the hot is pin 1, because if we go between 1 and 3, we get voltage. If we go between 1 and 2, we get voltage. If we go between 2 and 3, which is our neutral to ground, we get no reading. So this looks like it's good. So next step we're going to do is actually take this and plug in an AC300 and confirm that it works. Bear with me, I'm going to have to lug those things upstairs from the basement and bring them out here to the garage. So give me a moment. All right, guys, so I have one of the AC300s up here in the garage. So what we're going to do now is take our connector, which we have, once again, the Y adapter here. We have our TT30 plugged into here. Here's the other end of it, just so you guys can see it's all one cable. Okay. We're going to plug this into the AC300 now. I have the AC300 on right now. You can see that there's no grid going to it right now. So this is turned off. I don't know if you can see the meter back there, but it is actually off. So we're going to plug this in real quick. Tighten it in. I say we needed some loose connections and have a catastrophe on the first plug-in. Okay, so we are in right now. So what I'm going to actually wind up doing is turning on the power up above, show you guys that the power comes on. You should be able to see it with the meter back here. And then you should be able to see this turn orange here. Okay, so power is on. You can see that the system has sensed that there is available grid power. Now, let me zoom in real quick so you guys can actually see this a little bit better. Okay, so what we're going to do is, right now the system is not drawing power because of my UPS settings. I have it set to only charge off-grid if the system is below 80%. So right now I'm about to change this so I can actually pull some amperage or some current right now. So let's go to settings, we'll go to page 2, we'll go to customize UPS, and yes, I'm going into customize. Then I'm going to change the SOC settings. Okay, right now it's set to 80%. Let's just do this at 90%, or oops, not 900. 90%, hit OK. And go home. Okay, so I don't know if you guys just heard that click, but the draw of AC power just enables from the grid. So right now I'm pulling about 1100 watts. I think that's also because I have a limitation set. So we can go over to settings again. We can go over to the next page, max grid. I have it set to 9 amps right now. Without the unlock code, which I have to go look in my emails for the unlock code that I received. Let's go ahead and do it to 15 amps. Okay, get out of that, go home, and now we're charging at 1800 watts. So the main purpose of this is to prove that you can actually change this cable, and this is the proper method to change the cable. So next 2 steps I think that we should also try is bumping this all the way up to 30 amps, but also plug in the second AC300 into the other TT30 that's on here, and to show that that one outlet can do it. Now granted, it's not split phase mode yet. These are 2 standalone systems, but we're taking baby steps to make sure that everybody understands how this needs to work. All right guys, so you can see I have both of my AC300s up here now. I have my leg 1 and leg 2. That'll eventually be part of my split phase environment. In the background here we have our splitter cable, or a Y adapter, I'm sorry, going from an L14 down to the 2 TT30 receptacles and plugs that we changed out. Obviously this guy is going right here, and then this other one's going to the back, and it's coming in right here. So just to show you guys, it's all the same cable, okay? So obviously no grid power is turned on right now. I actually have my sub panel turned off, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's see what happens here. I think right now everything's set to just 1 amp. Yeah, that's 1 amp grid charging. Let's check the other guy here. Also 1 amp. So let's go ahead and turn on the breaker for that L14 receptacle, and both of them should start charging. So let's go home, and turning it on now. So both of them sense grid power. They haven't started charging yet. Okay, they both just turned on. So this one's doing 125 watts. That one's also doing around 125 watts. So both of them are pulling from the same 240 volt L14 receptacle, obviously one off of each side of the phase of power. Now, what we can do here is actually bump this up now. So let's do settings, let's do next, let's do 15 amps. Okay. Oops. So now we're doing at about 1800 watts there. See what we can do here. Settings, next page, 15 amps. Okay, so now they're both doing at 15 amps, both 1800 watts. So what we can actually do now is prove that we can go above that 15 amps. So while I make the changes, because I actually have the unlock codes for my devices, I'm going to turn on a small shop vac so that I can draw some power here, because once I hit 95%, that's where my SOC high is now set. This will stop pulling grid charge. So as you can also notice too, my AC is off. You'll see this device is off. This is part of that power failure monitor that I was talking about. So once I turn the AC on, AC output on, that light's going to turn on. Okay, so we just now sent power out. Obviously that device now knows about it. So on my cell phone, I'll be getting an alert saying that power has been restored to this device. So we're gonna try on shop vac so I can go ahead and enter in that code and bump us up to 15 amps. All right, guys, you can see, sorry, let me wait for this to go off. Okay, so you can see both these units are currently saying 15 amps. We're gonna go 25 amps right now. So there's 25 amps there, and we'll do 25 amps there. So let's go back home, back home. So now we're charging at 3,000 watts over here and 3,000 watts over here. Let's go ahead and turn on some power again to this because this is gonna go up very quickly. All right, so I'm not gonna go above that 25 amps, even though I know my receptacle up there is 30 amps. You know, I really am not gonna push the limits with it. 25 amps is more than enough. If I ever decide I need to go higher, I will. But in general, you can see that these guys are charging, you know, 3,000 watts there, 3,000 watts there off the same outlet. And obviously, the left-hand Bluetti here is my leg 1, and this is my leg 2. So these are actually being powered by the different sides of my phase grid power right now. So next option would be to include the fusion box, which I don't have yet, like everybody else. I'm waiting for it. But once I get that, I will add it into this setup. Now, the charging off of a single outlet being 240, 30 amp, or if it was a 15 amp with split phase verified, we do have a couple of users that I've helped set up this. So what I would like to do is actually, once I get my fusion box, is confirm that I can use the 15 amps. Now, when it comes to the 15 amps, I say it's probably okay in a light load, but if you have a heavier load, I would suggest that 30 amp generator cords and making the modifications as necessary. So I will set up the next video and get it set up. If you have questions, please let me know, and I will try to answer them.